The night that changed everything started with a lie so gentle I didn't even recognize it until I was already trapped in the middle of someone else's fantasy. I remember standing under the flickering streetlight outside my apartment in Boston, the cold November air brushing against my face, and my phone buzzing with a message from my coworker, Hannah. I thought it was about a project deadline or a shift swap, something normal. But instead, it was a simple, disarming invitation. "Hey, could you help me with something at my place? It'll only take a few minutes." That was the moment everything started shifting quietly, unexpectedly, toward a story I never imagined I'd be part of. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and unexpected turns in life, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. It truly supports the stories we bring to you. When I arrived at her house, the warm smell of roasted chicken and garlic butter drifted toward me before she even opened the door. I remember thinking she must have been hosting guests or getting ready for a family dinner, but the soft music in the background and the neatly arranged table with 2 plates already set made something inside me tighten. It felt too intimate, too prepared, too intentional. Hannah greeted me with her usual bright smile, but there was a nervous flicker behind her eyes that made me pause for a moment. I had always known her as the calm, collected one in the office, the one who handled deadlines like a breeze and made everyone feel comfortable just by being nearby. But that night, she seemed different, almost fragile. She guided me inside, brushing her hand lightly against my arm as she did. It didn't feel flirty. It felt desperate. The moment I stepped inside, something felt off, like I had stepped into a role I didn't audition for. She kept talking about the food, the music, the weather, everything but the reason she had called me. And every time I asked what she needed help with, she told me it could wait and that I should relax, enjoy the dinner she accidentally cooked. Too much of the truth didn't reveal itself until she heard a knock at the door. She froze. Her whole body stiffened as if someone had pulled the air out of her lungs, and suddenly her hands trembled slightly. Before I could ask what was wrong, she whispered something that turned my stomach into a knot. "Please, just go along with whatever I say. I'll explain later." And then her parents walked in. Her mother rushed forward and hugged her, excitedly talking about how long it had been. Her father stood tall, friendly but observant, and shook my hand with a firmness that told me he was evaluating me from the moment our palms touched. I still had no idea what was happening, but the unsettling feeling grew heavier when her mom smiled and said, "So this is the boyfriend you've been telling us about?" I felt my heart drop. Hannah looked at me as if she were silently begging for help, her eyes shimmering with a mix of fear and shame. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know whether to correct them, whether to walk out, or whether to pretend. So I did the only thing my stunned brain allowed. I nodded slowly and forced a small smile, hoping she would jump in and clarify. But she never did. Dinner became a strange theater performance in which I was the accidental lead actor, improvising lines in a story I didn't understand. The table felt too warm under the weight of her parents' expectations, too bright under the overhead light that seemed to expose every expression on my face. Her dad asked about my childhood, my job, my future plans. Her mom asked how we met, and Hannah quickly jumped in, weaving a story about office friendships turning into something special. I could feel her trembling beside me, her leg shaking under the table, tapping against mine every few seconds. It was only when her mother excused herself to check something in the kitchen and her father stepped outside to take a phone call that Hannah finally whispered the truth. She said her parents had been pressuring her for months, constantly comparing her to cousins, always asking why she couldn't find someone. They worried she was too focused on work and missing out on life, and she felt cornered, judged, and alone. So one day, panicking, she told them she was dating someone. She never planned for them to visit so soon. She never planned for it to go this far. But when they suddenly announced they were coming into town to meet the lucky guy, she had to choose someone safe, someone who wouldn't judge her. She chose me, not because she had feelings for me, she insisted. Not because she wanted anything from me. But because, in her words, "You're the only person who ever made me feel like I didn't have to pretend." That hit me harder than I expected. I knew she struggled with her parents' expectations. She had mentioned it casually before, but I didn't know she carried this much weight. And suddenly the carefully set table, the perfectly cooked dinner, the nervous touches, they all made painful sense. After dinner, when her parents finally left, she broke down. She apologized over and over again, tears streaming down her face as she said she shouldn't have dragged me into her mess, that she understood if I never wanted to talk to her again. But the thing that surprised me the most was that I didn't feel angry. I felt something else, something softer, something protective. Because for the first time, I saw her not as the confident coworker but as a deeply lonely person who didn't know how to ask for help. Over the next weeks, something slowly shifted between us. She didn't avoid me at work, instead, she seemed more open, more genuine, letting me see pieces of her she had never shown before. We started eating lunch together more often. We talked about life, pressure, fear, and all the invisible struggles we both carried. Because the truth was, I wasn't as strong or put together as she thought I was either. I had my own scars, my own secrets I never told anyone. The strange fake dinner became a turning point neither of us expected. As days turned into weeks, the walls around her began to crack in the most gentle, unforced way. She started letting me into her world, not by pushing, not by pretending, but by simply being real. We bonded over insecurities, childhood stories, silly office jokes, late-night emails, and shared silences. And somewhere in the middle of it all, something grew. Something unplanned. Something honest. Months later, when her parents came to visit again, things were different. This time, she didn't lie. She invited me along, but not because she needed a fake boyfriend to impress them. She invited me because, somewhere along the way, I had become someone who mattered. And when her mother hugged me again and her father shook my hand, I felt no tension, no pressure, no pretending, because this time, we weren't acting. And yet, the part of the story that stays with me the most wasn't the romantic growth or the acceptance. It was the moment after that second dinner when Hannah looked at me not with desperation or fear, but with quiet gratitude, and said, "Thank you for showing up, even when you didn't have to." It reminded me that sometimes life pushes us into roles we never expected, not to trap us, but to reveal something buried within ourselves: kindness, patience, courage, humanity.